Hello YouTube, Tucker here. I made a decision about these opening videos, and I decided instead of making an in-depth series to start out, I'm going to try and make a couple of simple repertoire videos that you can watch and in about an hour learn everything you need to know to play. I'll make it a video for one e4 for white. I'll make a London system for white video. I believe I'll make a French for black and a Sicilian for black video. And then I'll make a Grunfeld for black and a Semi-Slav for black video. And then I'll do respective videos for the English opening, which is one c4 for white. And I'll make a video for one knight f3 for white. So I'll be making all these videos. Hopefully these are more simple for beginners to study than the alternative being a several hour long video series in depth that you probably won't be able to remember anyway. So this, I'll be making an e4 for white video, and I'll leave a link in the description to this study on Lichess. If anyone wants to become a member and to edit this themselves, they can absolutely. We're going to go to empty position. The name is going to be, for this, we're going to go, our first variation, we're going to play one e4. So our first variation is going to be one e5. We're going to create the chapter, and e4, e5. Now, for white, we're going to play knight c3, or knight f3, sorry. No, we're not playing the Vienna game. The Vienna game is knight c3. So, we'll be playing knight f3. It attacks black's pawn, and it tries to stake out better control of the center for white. We will have black playing knight c6, as well as knight c6 didn't save, as well as knight f6, the Russian defense, or the Petrov's defense, as well as d6, the Philidor defense. We will be making repertoires for all of these. So we're going to go through the least common variation first, the Philidor defense. The Philidor defense is very simple to play for white. You play d4. The two most common moves are e takes d, e takes d4, to which we will respond knight takes d4, knight f6, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, I believe knight c3. Let me make sure knight c3 is played. My internet's very poor, I'm sorry about that, but it should be alright. It generally doesn't stay off for too long. Yes, so is knight c3 played here? Surely. My opening explorer won't work. This is what I play against the Philidor. So, we will learn to knight c3. Generally, black responds bishop e7. White can play bishop to e2. Black castles and white castles. This is as far as we'll go in the Philidor. I believe I'll go 7 or 8 moves in each variation. Not too in-depth at all. I just want to make it clear for you to understand the ideas. After the Philidor, that is, so e4, e5, knight f3, d6 is the Philidor. We respond with d4. We exchange. Black usually plays knight f6, and we play knight c3 defending. We both put our bishops in front of our kings so that we can castle. Very simple, easy line, very still solid. White should be slightly better here. The engine says zeros. I would call this slightly better for white. Black can play this move c5 and kick our knight to either b3 or f3. But generally he doesn't. He more often plays rook e8 and then we have rook e1. But this variation should be equal like most openings. Let's move on to the Russian defense. If black, instead of playing the normal knight c6, if black decides to counterattack with knight f6, we'll be taking on e5. Now, black's main move is d6, to which we will respond knight f3. Knight takes e4 is generally played, to which we respond d4. And black generally loses a tempo here by playing d5. Now this is about as far as we'll go in the Russian. I just want to go one move further. We play bishop e3, kicking the knight, and black plays knight c6, defending the position, attacking white's pawn. And the game is pretty simple. Simple position, simple attacking ideas for each player. White's going to get castled before black does. If white does get castled very soon, for instance, say black plays rook b8, a nothing move. Well, actually, white gets castled immediately. Say black plays rook b8, a nothing move. White can pin the knight. Now notice this knight cannot move. So if black doesn't block the pin, white can win the knight with a move like f3. Or if black chooses, well, black doesn't have a choice. White can take the knight, pawn takes, and rook takes. Now this pawn is defended 3 times, so we don't have to worry about that. This bishop is pinned to the king, and white should have an easy game. He's up a pawn. It's very easy. This is called the Mason's Showalter variation. I didn't know that until just now, so you don't have to at all. I did go 10 moves deep there. I didn't really mean to do that, but it was a simple line. There's only one line, really, that black can go into. The alternative is that if black doesn't play knight takes, black will often play at the beginner level knight takes e4. Commonly, you can win here with queen e2. And if black doesn't play queen e7, actually black apparently does play queen e7, but generally, if black doesn't play a move such as queen e7, I went over this in the tactics video, that if black plays a move such as knight c5 because he has to move the knight or else white will just take it, if white plays a move such as knight c5, white will play a move that is knight c6, which comes with check and wins the queen. So that's all you really need to know is this trap, and you need to know this main line, which goes knight f6, knight takes e5, d6, knight f3, knight takes d4. After that, the moves are mostly natural, and you can interpose them how you would like. White simply does have an easy game, and the most testing line is this normal variation. Now, as white, there are a lot of ways you can play this. And the main way to play, not the main way, but the second most common way, and the way I'm going to recommend to you, is the Italian game. Now, the Italian game is known for being a solid opening and for being one of the oldest openings of all. In the Italian game, white pressures the f7 pawn. White can increase the pressure by playing knight to g5, after, of course, playing d3 so that the knight will be defended. Both players have ideas of getting center control and improving their center control. Now, you need to know 2 moves here. Black has 2 moves. This is what we call the gioco piano. It means the quiet game, I think. Something like that, the soft game, the easy game. And as white here, I'm going to give you 2 options. No, I take that back. I'll only be recommending 1 option, and that will be c3. c3, I believe, begins the gioco pianissimo, or the classical variation of the Italian game. And black often plays here knight to f6. and we have d4 with white. E takes d4. C takes d4. Bishop b4 check. Bishop d2. d2 check. Knight b takes d2. And we have an easy game, a simple game, where both players just play to the best of their ability. Now, black has one other option, which is knight f6. Knight f6 is less common, but still a good move. And we're going to play aggressively against knight f6. Knight g5. Now, black's only move is d5. And not many beginners know this move. If black doesn't play d5, say black plays actually any of these other moves, such as a6, white takes f7. White either wins the queen or the rook, and black can't stop him at all. Black's best try is d4. Well, he can't play d5 because he loses the queen. So actually, his only move here is queen e7, knight takes rook, and white is already winning. So, all you have to know now is if d5, we play e takes d5. Now, black either has to play knight a5, b5. He has to attack the bishop, and he obviously has to move the knight. So, white does seem to have an easy game here. White gets to continue to attack black's pieces, to attack f7, the weak spot in black's position. And white will castle a lot sooner than black. You can see that black is still a few moves away from castling because he has to move this knight, and then he has to also move his bishop out and castle. At the very least, 3 moves away from castling. White, however, can castle next move. That's all I want to cover in the Italian game. That's all I want to cover for 1e5 for the moment. Of course, there are going to be many more lines than that, and black has many other good options, but these are what you'll see the vast majority of the time. If all you know is what I put in that e5, chapter, most beginner tournaments, for instance, high school, college tournaments, or even especially the younger kids, that alone, knowing that what I put in that file right there, will probably cover half your games. Half your games is white, I mean, obviously not as black. So here we'll go 1 c5. This is the Sicilian defense. And in the Sicilian defense, white has claimed the light squares in the center, and black is going to try and stake a claim to the dark squares. So, white plays knight f3, trying to contest these squares. Black's most common move is d6, although black can also play knight c6. And to either of these, we're going to reply with d4. Black will take. White will take back. Black will attack our pawn. We will defend. And now black has a lot of options. He has the Najdorf Sicilian, the Dragon Sicilian, the Classical, the Scheveningen. Apparently bishop d7 is a line, although I've never seen it. But this is what I'm recommending, this setup here. Let me draw some arrows for you. These pieces are where they need to be. We're going to later play bishop d3, or bishop e3, bishop c4, queen to d2, kingside, or queenside castles, king to b1 to make our position more secure, and then we can start attacking on the king side this way. It's very effective because black inevitably will have to castle kingside, and as you can see, he has to move a pawn. He has to move one of these 2 pawns and get his bishop out one of 2 ways in order to castle. And obviously he can't castle queenside because there's a wide hole in his position if he does. That being said, that is almost all you need to know about the Sicilian defense. Now this is what we call the Old Sicilian. We can respond to the Old Sicilian with the same move, d4. Black can play c takes d4. White plays knight takes d4. Now black can capture with the knight here, but it isn't very good at all, actually. And I'll show you why. Give me just a moment here. So if black plays knight takes knight, queen takes knight, white simply has better development. White simply has better development, and he's attacking, he's putting pressure on this g7 pawn. In fact, he could play bishop to h6 soon, because if black takes, white wins the rook. So here we have a good position, but if black does not capture, which he very well should not, he plays knight f6. White can respond with knight to c3, the same as the other line. Notice that we get a very similar position. The only difference is black has a d-pawn in this line. Black has a d-pawn. That's the only difference. Black has his d-pawn here rather than on d6. And he has played knight c6 already. So it looks like, if you go back over here, black had the idea of playing knight c6 in this position. It looks just like that position. The classical Sicilian is what we call this. So that's all I'm going to recommend you need to know for the Sicilian. Now we're going to go over one e6, and this will be our last variation of the day. And actually, we're going to get done with this in about 25 minutes. So white plays e4, and if black responds with e6, I'm going to recommend this line for you, d4, because if black allows us to take control of all of these center squares, we will. Now, black will generally push to d5. And what I'm going to recommend for you is to push e5 here. While as black, I play the French, and this is my favorite line to play against. It's probably white's, the computer would say it's white's worst way to play. But as a human, I say it's one of white's best ways to play because it's extremely simple. Black will almost always play c5. White plays c3. Notice that black is pressuring the d4 pawn, but we will not capture. We will simply continue to defend it. Black here plays knight to c6. We play knight to f3. And black plays either bishop d7 or queen to d6, or b6, sorry. So if black played queen to d6, we'd be very happy. Sorry about that. Black will play queen to b6 here, or bishop to d7. I don't recommend you look into either of those. I think knowing this much is probably enough. All I would recommend you know after this is to play a3. Because black is eventually going to be putting enough pressure on this d pawn of ours that we have to defend with the bishop. But notice if we move our bishop in this position, say we defend with this, black takes, and he wins our rook as well, unless we play knight d2, to which black can respond queen takes c3. And if you notice that, black is basically completely winning here. So he's up 2 pawns, he's got great pressure on our center. He will, in a few moves, be able to castle. And black has a winning position. So we're going to delete this line because we don't want that in our preparation. We want a3 because now let me show you this. If white takes, well, if black were to play, say he plays knight to e7, I might play knight e7 in this position, and white plays bishop to e3 now, and black takes on b2. Let's turn on the computer. Oh, well, let me go back. We won't be playing bishop e3. We'll delete from here. And we'll play this, and imagine black were to take after, say, bishop g5. I need to find a line where the bishop isn't here. So say bishop g5 is played. No, black is still winning. Generally, black will play c4 here, but I don't know why I can't get the computer to tell me white's winning, because it's very hard for him not to lose his queen after he takes on b2, after you've moved this bishop, for instance. But I would recommend simply this line with a3, and if you would prefer it to a3, you can play a different move, bishop g5. No, you can't. Sorry. I'm looking at this position incorrectly. You can play... I suppose you could play bishop to d3, because bishop d3 is the Milner-Berry gambit. I suppose it's what I would recommend in terms of an opening that would be nice, because if you follow this variation, takes, black is losing if he recaptures with the knight because of this tactic. If he takes the knight back, white plays check, and this check comes while attacking the queen. So we win the queen. We win a queen for a bishop. Actually, we win a queen. And we're just completely winning here. So I'm going to leave that on the repertoire. Just know that this doesn't work for black because he loses absolutely. It's plus 14. That means white is up the equivalent of having 14 extra pawns on the board. Black can't do anything. He has no chances here. Alright, so there is our... Looks like we are done going over these three openings. And I know for those of you who are more advanced players, if you will stick around after a couple weeks, I'll probably get into more complicated openings. I actually need to learn the English opening myself. We'll need to learn to play against it because I'm worried about facing it in a tournament. I realized today that I don't have a good response. So I'll be going over that soon because I'll be learning it myself and I want to know it well enough that I could teach you. And other than that, I will record another video immediately after I finish recording this one. It will be on... I'll build you a Sicilian or French repertoire. I haven't decided yet. I'll build you a repertoire for black against 1 e4. And that'll be all. Be sure to leave a like if you found this video helpful. And subscribe if you'd like to see more. See you next time.